The Tragedy of Macbeth is an American black and white film written and directed by Joel Coen, based on the play Macbeth by William Shakespeare. It is the first film directed by one of the Coen brothers without the other's involvement. It stars Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, Bertie Carvel, Alex Hassell, Corey Hawkins, Harry Melling, and Brendan Gleeson. In the film, the three witches tell Macbeth a prophecy that he will become the King of Scotland. Catherine Hunter co-stars, playing all three witches and an old man. The Tragedy of Macbeth was released in select theaters by A24 on December 25, 2021, and began streaming on Apple TV and on January 14, 2022. The film was critically acclaimed, with praise aimed towards Coen's screenplay and direction, Bruno Dolbanel's cinematography, the production design and score, and the performances of Washington and Hunter. The American Film Institute and National Board of Review listed it among the best films of 2021. Washington was nominated for a Golden Globe and Dolbanel received a BAFTA Award nomination for Best Cinematography. At the 94th Academy Awards, the film received nominations for Best Actor, Best Production Design, and Best Cinematography. Plot: Macbeth, Thane of Glamis, and Banquo, Thane of Lochaber, having led King Duncan's army to victory over the traitorous Thane of Cawdor, are approached by three witches on the battlefield. The witches hail Macbeth as the future Thane of Cawdor and proclaim that he shall someday be king and that Banquo shall father a line of kings. Soon thereafter, King Duncan fulfills the first prophecy by ordering the Thane of Ross to execute Cawdor and reinvest the title upon Macbeth, but King Duncan names his own son Malcolm as the Prince of Cumberland, which Macbeth sees as an encumbrance to his path to the throne. When Duncan spends a night at Macbeth's castle, Lady Macbeth, aware of the prophecies, convinces her husband to commit regicide. She drugs the king's servants, and a hesitant Macbeth murders the king. At dawn, Macduff, Thane of Fife, discovers the body, and Macbeth ties up loose ends by summarily executing the servants, ostensibly as just punishment for their supposed betrayal of the king. Fearing for his own life, Malcolm flees to England, and Macbeth assumes the throne as the new king. Uneasy over the prophecy concerning Banquo, Macbeth arranges to have him and his son Fleed murdered. Macbeth's assassins, accompanied by Ross as the third murderer, kill Banquo. Ross then pursues Fleed through a field. An increasingly paranoid Macbeth becomes a feared tyrant. At a royal banquet, he hallucinates and begins raving at an apparition of Banquo. Lady Macbeth has the guests dismissed before sedating Macbeth. During his trance, Macbeth is again visited by the witches. They conjure a vision of Fleed, who tells him to beware of Macduff, that he shall be king until great Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane Hill, and that he shall be harmed by no man born of a woman. Macbeth orders the whole Macduff household to be slaughtered. Only Macduff survives, having fled to England earlier. A guilt-ridden Lady Macbeth gradually descends into insanity. Ross secretly visits England and informs Macduff of his family's demise. A grief-stricken Macduff vows revenge, while Malcolm raises an army with English help. The troops cut down branches from Birnam Wood, using them as camouflage, and march on Macbeth's castle at Dunsinane, fulfilling one of the prophecies. Lady Macbeth dies, implied to have been killed by Ross, plunging Macbeth into further despair. Still convinced of his invincibility, he is ultimately challenged by Macduff to a duel. Macduff declares he is not born of a woman but instead untimely ribbed. Macbeth initially refuses but ultimately accepts Macduff's challenge. Macduff defeats and beheads Macbeth, fulfilling the final prophecy. Malcolm is crowned the new King of Scotland. Meanwhile, Fleed is revealed to be alive, and Ross spirits him away from Scotland. A flock of crows emerges in the foreground, clearing the path and to signal the fulfillment of the witch's prophecy regarding Banquo's progeny. Cast. Production. It was announced in March 2019 that Joel Coen, in a rare solo effort, was set to write and direct a new take on the William Shakespeare play. Scott Rudin was originally set to produce, and A24 would distribute. Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand were set to star in the film. In November, Brendan Gleeson and Corey Hawkins entered negotiations to join the cast. Both were confirmed in January 2020, along with the addition of Moses Ingram, Harry Melling, and Ralph Ineson to the cast. Filming began in Los Angeles with cinematographer Bruno Dolbanel on February 7, 2020. To give the film a look untethered from reality, it was shot entirely on sound stages. In April, Coen announced that the film would officially be titled The Tragedy of Macbeth. It was announced on March 26, 2020, that filming had been halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Production resumed on July 23, 2020, and concluded on July 31, 2020. In April 2021, Rudin stepped down as producer following allegations of abuse. The film's score was composed by Carter Burwell, the Coen brothers' longtime collaborator. The score's ominous tone is punctuated by moments of solo violin described by Burwell as taking flight out of the darkness. Helping the composer to channel the idea of a folk-style sound from unknown lands was award-winning violinist Tim Fain. Regarding Joel directing alone without Ethan, Burwell stated, "Ethan didn't want to make movies anymore. He seems to be happy with what he's doing. They both have tons of unproduced scripts sitting on shelves, but I don't know what Joel will do without him." The film is presented in black and white with an aspect ratio of 1:37:1, the production design and visual style intended to evoke The Passion of Joan of Arc 1928 landmark film by Carl Theodor Dreyer, as Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal 1957 film did before. Release. The film was theatrically released by A24 followed by global launch on Apple TV+. It had its world premiere at the 2021 New York Film Festival on September 24, 2021. It was released in a limited release on December 25, 2021, prior to streaming on Apple TV and on January 14, 2022. It also closed the London Film Festival. Reception.